change the code if they need to, and say yay or nay, you can hook up or not. It's not the town's responsibility whatsoever to figure out how to make the system
You're
start
preaching to
with.
the choir, because again, I don't want to tell these marinas that you're going to get something if you don't. If the cost
You don't
is-
have to.
Well, again,
You don't
if the
need
cost is
to.
going to fall on the marinas.
It's their
Excuse
responsibility.
yourself. If the cost is going to fall on the marinas to in turn just make that decision, then it falls on the marinas. But let's in turn at least get an idea, is this stuff going to hurt our plant or not? Or is there some degree of the volume and all the things that are taken into account that has to be in some sort of guidelines that we work with? That's all I'm saying. I don't want to lead the marinas on, and at the end of the day, we say no. If they got to foot the bill, great, give them the bill. I have no problem with that either. I just want to ensure the town's assets are protected. You all cool with that?
What was that?
Good. The assets, the wastewater treatment plant.
Right. So-
Okay, so I think we've beat this around enough.
Where's the
Brian?
blue rags?
All right, Ronnie, you got anything else you want to add to it, or you?
No, 20 minutes ago.
Yep, all right. Next is the,
I'm not taking any questions.
Family Dollar, permit fees. I put this on there, Ronnie, because we had obviously got a letter from Mr. Larson after our last meeting, of which we weren't sure whether or not Family Dollar was officially pulling up, camp and heading out of town. And I guess since the last meeting, I got an email from Mr. Larson. He's making a, request to get back the letters of credit, or the credit that he's put down. And I wanted to, I guess, as we stated, at the next meeting, we would decide whether or not we would approve that.
You want to hear my opinion?
Okay.
We didn't ask them to come in this town. We didn't ask them to come in here with a race with Dollar General to come in this town. We sure didn't ask them to leave this town. Okay, they chose to do that on their own after they lost the race with Dollar General. And I don't see by setting these fees back, which in turn, they came in, and a lot of these fees that the taxpayers have paid for,
Right.
and this is already done. It seemed like to me, thinking about it, well, they've already had this done, the value of their property goes up if they resale value, and if they want to send it back, in other words, the town people, residents, the taxpayer is gonna be the one paying for it.
What are
I'm
the
totally
terms
against
of-
giving them anything back.
We'll give a chance for the audience to ask questions.
I'm totally against it, I don't think it's in the code that says, Chip, I don't know if you can look at it, I brushed up on it a little bit, but, and says that we have to.
What are the terms of the letter of credit?
Well, I
We'll be
haven't,
right there, just give us an opportunity.
just on this issue,
What you might be
I
interested
haven't
in knowing
seen
yourself.
anything in writing from Family Dollar requesting relief of the fees they pay, and specifically which fees they're asking to be refunded, because there are a number of different fees they pay. Some fees, it's gonna be hard for the town to say, we're not gonna refund you, like sewer and water connections, when those were never made. But, to your point, application fees, and the town, to me, should be looking at all the costs it incurred
Right.
related to this proposed development. I'm talking about advertising costs, things like that, and you don't wanna refund beyond covering at least your cost for what you did to process this application. So, until I see a letter, something in writing where they're saying, these are the fees we want refunded, I don't have any kind of recommendation. And if all they're asking is for all their fees to be refunded,
That's ridiculous.
then I think we can look at that and decide which ones you might want to refund.
Well, I guess that's the last, the meeting, we got an email that said, it appears, and again, it's just an assumption that they're going up, and that they may want to, they have requested a refund of all permits that have been paid, and a release of all that are of credit. Here's Chip. That's what they, Mr. Larson put in, and he stated, Chip, he said, "Dear Mayor Willis, please to the attached letter requesting the return of the original letters of credit required for the proposed Family Dollar store at Rock Hall, which has been terminated. Thank you for your support and help."
This is
And-
fine, letters of credit, you should release your letters of
That's
credit.
right.
Okay,
But if they're not, and this letter says nothing about fees, so I would do nothing as far as returning fees. Letters of credit, are fine to release because they're not building anything. And just so everybody understands,
Right.
these were intended landscaping letter of credit. If they built their building and they were required to do landscaping, you have a letter of credit to make sure the landscaping survives, and if it doesn't, you have something to fall back on.
How long typically after do they, does that letter, do they keep that?
Well, that's
on
all
file?
generally spelled out in your subdivision approvals about the letters of credits that are required, and then usually the terms of when you can release them are included. So sometimes letters of credit are released on a partial basis, like 50% completion, you release 50, because these cost money. To developer, to get a letter of credit, you pay a bank. And as long as they're hanging out there, there's cost to the developers. They always want these released as quickly as possible. In this case, where there's not gonna be anything built, there's no justifiable reason for the town to continue to hold the letters of credit. But that's very separate from application
But
fees.
who makes that decision to give it back? Is it us or the planning department? Who typically
Well,
renders?
usually, no, the mayor and council releases them, but on the recommendation of the planning commission.
Okay.
But in this case, and so I think you obviously would confirm that they're not, you know, they've withdrawn their application, so then you would release those letters.
And I emailed the board, which was Ralph's letter, and I just said to Ralph, we have a meeting coming up Monday. I would present this to I'll present it to the board. And that's why it's on the agenda there. Now, in the interim, though, Amy has indicated that they had.
Just understand, but what's on the agenda is Family Dollar permit fees. That's
Well-
very different than letters of credit.
I'll look at my email that I sent Lacy this morning as to what, but and in turn though, also, I forwarded everybody the request made by Mr. Larson.
I didn't see that.
I'm sorry you didn't get it. I'll forward that to you, as well. I thought you were.
That's what I was looking at, was we earning something they wanted that back. I mean,
Well, when he said it, initially said it to me, and when I responded back, I in turn gave you guys the letter, the attachment, which was the letter of credits, and then the other letter, and
What up, so just to be clear, so he communicated with you directly about the letters of credit,
correct.
and then he communicated with you separately about the fees?
No, sir. All he said, Chip, was, it was just the letters of credit, and he had sent an email in that
You
stated.
just said there was something, you just referred to another.
No, I'm sorry,
I hadn't
I was
seen it.
referring, I guess what I was trying to get at was Amy's letter, and I did not mean to say permit, I was just stating that Amy had then stated, this is already in the process of returned it, because the check was made out to, I assume the county, because they do our business. They handle the planning and zoning, but.
Returning what check?
The letters of credit, what we're talking about,
Oh, okay.
forgive us the check. You didn't see these emails?
So she's already in the process of releasing it. I mean,
Which is fine, I mean, I just,
It's not long.
and so what I guess what I'm gonna wanna put on the agenda is, that's first and foremost, the letters of credit.
Council didn't approve.
Is that in turn, you know, a board will require approval, or, as I understand there, because the check
I
was made out
think,
to the
I would
commissioners,
recommend that
it's out of our
somebody make,
hands.
I would recommend that during this meeting, somebody make a recommendation to release those 3 letters of credit, as requested by, Family Dollar.
Because she already approved it.
And the formal request went to the planning and zoning office?
The letters of, I guess the checks
That's
are.
who holds the credit, planning office.
But the request to release them went to the planning and zoning office, or?
No, to me, but the check went to the commissioners, or the letters of credit that were put down.
Went to the commissioners.
I'm only speculating, but my feeling would be Amy knew that one of the first things this developer would want is letters of credit released, and there's no justifiable reason to be holding them. So she probably, on her own initiative, knew that was coming, or maybe had talked to them and got the ball rolling. Under normal circumstances, you all would be the ones releasing letters of credit ultimately on the recommendation of your planning office. In this
Right,
case,
and
it
I mean,
happens to be,
and-
don't get confused with the county. Amy Mordock is the Rock Hall planner when we talk about her, okay? So-
Yeah, that's why I was saying, I assume that's why the checks were made out to the county, because she's the Rockwell planner, they must escrow that money, or?
And with this letter of credit, she released that, I mean, they applied for these building permits and stuff, and they had to put up these letters of credit. and it guarantees that the work's gonna be done
Yeah, I
right.
don't know what you.
The
when you
minute
say
that
a
they
check.
decided they weren't gonna do the project, then she,
Yeah.
soon she released the
Well,
letters
they-
of credit, because there's no project anymore.
There's no transfer of money, for the
Okay.
letter of credit.
Well, when they're asking for the letters of credit back,
They don't,
They don't get it back, they get
released.
it released.
or released, rather,
They just get released.
right,
The bank, well, a letter of credit, the bank is guaranteeing that if this developer doesn't do the job the way it's supposed to be, that there'll be enough money there for you, the town, to finish the job.
right.
And because there's no project, there's no need to have a letter
Right,
of credit.
but as you stated, I mean, we're not, you said for permit fees, this is really to ensure the landscaping or the.
This is
soil
different, like
erosion
Chip was
and-
trying to say, this is different than the sewer and water fees and the
Right.
application for whatever, the golden
This deals
permit.
with three things.
That's just a guarantee that the work is gonna be done right.
This deals with the erosion and sediment control, the stormwater management, and then the landscaping.
Right, all things that would be released at the end of a project.
Okay, now it says, help me understand this, because obviously it doesn't come across our desk that much. It states, this letter shall serve as our request for the return of the three irrevocable letters of credit dated July 12, 2013, authorized by Artisans Bank for the proposed development of a Family Dollar store in Rockwell, Maryland. Following are the letters of credit numbers and the amounts of credit authorized along with the subject improvements. It gives the number for the amount of, let's just say, erosion and sediment control, $13,174.07.
Right, so here's the best way to get, a letter of credit is physically a letter. And it would say, whoever's holding this letter can walk into this bank
It's guaranteed.
and get $13,000 or whatever change if
Terms.
the developer did not do the stormwater according to plans. Okay, and you're holding that now. So if they did this project and the stormwater wasn't working, you could walk into their bank and say, give me $13,000 so I can go get this done right. So when they say return or release, you're returning their letters of credit, because whoever's holding it has that right. That's really how they work.
So what Amy then will be drafting up, or we, the town, draft up, is just a letter saying, we, the town of Rockwell, on this date.
I don't think you have to be involved other than right here tonight, agree to release those letters of credit, because the project is not moving forward.
Right,
Amy will take care of the rest.
and there's no reason at all at this point for them to have the ability to access funds if they go through, because they're not doing the project.
Correct.
Yep, so,
And those letters will go to the bank, right? Chip?
Yeah.
And then they do away, because the, Family Dollar's probably paying interest, aren't they paying interest probably
Yeah,
on
they
that
cost,
money?
they cost,
You
as
don't
long as
get
they're,
them for
as
free.
long as those are hanging out there.
So if they're not using them, they want them released.
So the original question
Because
was,
here's what you have to
get them all
understand,
back?
for a bank to issue a letter of credit, just so you're, unless you have all that cash sitting in the bank you're dealing with, right? I mean, most banks will say, you gotta have that amount sitting somewhere, because if these people show up with that letter of credit, we gotta pay, right? Unless you're in great shape and your bank fronts that letter of credit, that's why it's a cost to them, because that's cash probably sitting somewhere. Although they're pretty large, I don't know what bank, this is, I mean, I think we've covered it, you ought to just release it.
no, I think so, Joe. I think the thing was,
Make a motion to release them.
we just want to have the opportunity to vote on it.
But I would suggest that you do one other thing, if you're gonna be the one to talk to Ralph Larson again, you should tell him that if any other, well, I don't know whether you, but if he wants any other fees, fees released or returned, like those water and sewer fees that I think I read in an email, I'm not sure, but that ought to be put on an official letterhead from him, an official letter to the town stating exactly what he wants, and then the attorney and myself can look and see
Yeah.
if we put any work into that, which would prevent us from not wanting to give some of
And
that.
I sent it to you, so feel free at any time, I mean, if you want to.
I wouldn't encourage it.
No,
That's a
I-
mess.
I wouldn't,
No, but he,
I would just deal with the letters of credit.
Yeah, I mean, and I said to Mr. Larson, I will put this on the agenda, and the town manager will follow up with you if the council takes
Getting ready
action.
to build them a sewer plant down there.
well, those are released as soon as you finish your motion.
So we got a motion by Pete to go ahead and release, the letters of credit, one being for the, sediment and erosion control in the amount of $13,174.07. The second letter for stormwater management in the amount of $41.25, and then the final for landscaping, $16,849.69. Do we have a second? All right, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay. Next is the out-of-town sewer accounts.
All right, I have, you gotta get these dates right. On record here. As directed during the February 3rd, 2014 Utilities Commission meeting, I have discussed with the town attorney the issue of collecting any out-of-town utility charges that were not paid in full as a result of the mayor and council decision in May 2009. For utility customer accounts that benefited from the May 2009 decision to provide a discount to certain out-of-town users. We reversed that decision in 2013. As the water and sewer liaison, and with all things that I've considered, I recommend that the council, sitting as a utilities commission, reconsider its prior decision made on September 30th, 2013 to seek recovery of the utility charges that were discounted on 4 accounts because of the May 2009 action. I was one of the 3 council members who voted in September of 2013 to pursue collection. Therefore, it is my feeling that I make a motion to reconsider the decision made on September 30th, 2014 to pursue recovery of the discounted utility charges, and that the town will not pursue collection against the 4 potentially impacted out-of-town utility customers. So at that point, I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
That's your recommendation?
Here's my recommendation.
I mean, the more I look into this, whole history of this thing happening, I kind of feel obligated to these town residents that we shouldn't go back and, charge them and collect these fees, only because they looked into the situation at the time to why their account was being changed, and they couldn't get a valid answer here from the town hall. And I feel as, we didn't do our job, and it's the town's fault. And we've always said, you know, we can't treat one account different from the other accounts. And, that goes across the board.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? I'm recusing myself from this vote, so. All right.
You're abstaining from that, right?
Yes.
So you just voted not to collect back sewer fees, am I correct?
Mhm.
Now, what was the, Beef, you did a motion, Brian, second.
Should
Or
be
Susan,
second.
second.
3-0, you abstain.
Okay. Moving on,
Yeah.
water clarifier update?
Okay. As you know, with this process of doing this clarifier project, when the, Ryan Wrangles from McCrone was here, at our last meeting, or meeting before, last meeting, I guess he was here. after reviewing the bids and stuff, and the estimates come in $400,000 short. So we've, in the meantime, we've been going back, and he had a very lengthy letter and set before you and talked about the justification.